What's up, everybody? It's your boy Chris Surratt, bringing you another edition of the Car Concierge Show, the show that helps with the buying, selling, maintaining, and repairing of your vehicle. On today's show, we're going to talk about some new recalls that came out for Mazda, dealing with airbags again, and I'm going to go on a whole spiel about airbag sensors and collisions and how I don't think it's all working out really well. Next, we're going to head over to New York, the East Coast mainly. We're going to talk about manhole explosions. Now, there's been a major epidemic in manhole explosions, and I want to kind of bring this up because a couple weeks ago, I saw a manhole pop up, and it didn't surprise me. Maybe it was because of where I was, but it made me think about manhole explosions, how devastating they are, how often they happen. So I want to check that out for a second. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Trump as he goes on an attack of California and its EV rules, disbanding all kinds of rules, specifically the ones stating that they want the majority of vehicles on the road to be EVs by 2035. All right, so let's jump straight in. I want to talk about these new Mazda recalls that come out, and they're airbag recalls, which is a pretty common recall that comes out. The biggest recall of our time, pretty much, I would think would have been the Takata airbag recall, which pretty much covered the majority of vehicles available on the U.S. market. So we're going to talk about this recall from Mazda and then talk about airbag sensors and stuff like that for a quick second.
In Money Watch now, car maker Mazda has issued two separate recalls covering more than 183,000 cars. They say due to airbag issues and an indicator light that may not flash. Most of the cars, roughly 171,000 of them, were recalled because the airbags may not deploy in a crash, increasing the risk of injuries. That recall covers certain 2024 and 2025 Mazda 3 and CX-30 vehicles. Mazda says they may have faulty airbag sensors that set an error code, which could deactivate the airbags due to a low battery. To fix the issue, dealers will reprogram the airbag sensor units with new software or replace the unit for free. The vehicles covered in the recall over the indicator light issue are the 2024 and 2025 Mazda MX-5 vehicles.
So, and the majority of recalls out these days are standardly about recalls. Most of them have fixes that are software updates because most of the vehicles are pretty much completely electronic. The majority of things that go bad in these vehicles are electronic, and that's a big thing of why I always say I'd rather have roll-up windows. But when it comes to airbags and airbag recalls and airbag sensors that need to be updated, I think about my career as working in collision centers and how many vehicles are in accidents and particularly the front bumper is hit and the airbags don't go off. And of course, if you look at it, it's a good thing for the customer in most aspects because if the airbag's going off in a vehicle, then everything airbag related has to be replaced. All of the airbags, your seats in some cases, because you have the airbags in the seats, the airbag in the steering wheel. All of these things have to be replaced, and they're so expensive to the point where in most cases, if that's the case, then the vehicle gets totaled and you lose your vehicle. So most people are not affected or upset that the airbags don't go off when they're getting to these accidents. But I've seen so many situations where a whole entire front bumper will get torn off a vehicle and the airbag won't go off. A whole entire rear bumper will get torn off a vehicle and the airbag won't go off. I've seen several situations where these airbag sensors are damaged, completely damaged, and their airbags didn't go off. And I don't understand or know for sure if it's a situation where, the sensors are created to be so non-sensitive to the point where these entities can be hit, the front bumpers, the sensors themselves can be hit to the point where the car knows that it's not a major accident and you don't need your airbags to deploy. because I've seen so many accidents, and it varies, of course. It's more of a situation for me that I see that, like, I've seen a lot of airbags go off in Cadillacs. I'll admit that. I've seen a lot of airbags go off in GMC trucks. I've seen a couple of airbags go off in like Ford big heavy duty trucks, F-150s, 250s. But when you get down to the Subarus of the world, the Mazdas of the world, any of those entities, lots of Toyotas. I deal with a lot of Toyotas, and I've rarely see the airbags go off when there's a front or rear impact. So I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that I'm not sure that these ADAS systems are completely working correctly. And I think that to some degree we're going to have to start doing a little bit more investigation on these ADAS systems, specifically because you see a lot of recalls about them. You see a lot of problems with these companies having them, and of course they're a necessity in these vehicles. They are come equipped with in these vehicles. In most cases, they come equipped, so it's something that you're automatically going to have to pay for when you buy the vehicle. So you just want to make sure these things are working correctly, because what I'm saying is that I've seen so many times where a literally complete front bumper was torn off the front of the vehicle, and what happens? No airbags go off. And in some of those cases, the airbag probably should have went off. All right, so let's keep it going. I want to talk about a situation that is pretty much only happening in places more towards the East Coast, the New Yorks, the Massachusetts, places like that. They're having a uptick in manhole explosions. Now, we all seen manhole explosions in the movies and all those type of things. It's not something that you see a lot or you see in any massive degree. They don't happen a lot. They just don't happen a lot. But I myself happen to see one pop off. Just pop up in the air about 3 feet, turn sideways and land, but not land back into the hole, land onto the side. And me and the person I was walking with like, damn, that's crazy. Didn't think nothing of it until I was thinking about it and I saw this article about an uptick in manhole explosions. So, since we're talking about roads, specifically East Coast roads, the roads that all of our vehicles are on, I think we should talk about this for a second. Let's check it out.
All right, have you ever walked down a city street and noticed those heavy metal manhole covers under your feet? Most of us don't think twice about them. They're just part of the urban landscape, but lately, something alarming has been happening. Manholes are literally exploding in cities across the US. Now, I know what you're thinking. Exploding? Like actually blowing up? Yes, and it's way more common and dangerous than you'd expect. In just the past few years, there have been at least 32 deaths and over 300 injuries tied to manhole explosions. That's not just freak accidents, that's a crisis. So what's causing this? It usually starts underground with old electrical wiring or faulty cables. Over time, these wires can spark and heat up, igniting gases trapped in the sewer lines below. When those gases ignite, it's like lighting a bomb right under the street. The pressure builds up and boom, the manhole cover can launch into the air like a missile. Think about it. Those covers can weigh over 100 pounds, and when they fly, they can smash cars, injure pedestrians, or even cause tragic deaths. Cities like New York, Boston, and Baltimore have all reported these terrifying incidents, and the numbers keep climbing as our infrastructure ages. So, what can you do? First, always be aware of your surroundings. If you see a smoking or damaged manhole, stay clear and alert authorities. Never, ever try to investigate it yourself. Manhole explosions might sound like a plot twist in an action movie, but for hundreds of people, it's been a real-life nightmare. Stay safe out there, and maybe give those manhole covers a little more respect next time you walk by.
So, it's definitely not something that I would, standardly think that I would have to worry about here in California. You don't see a lot of manholes and that type of environment. It might be more in the bigger California cities than, in the areas that I live in. But it seems to be a problem. I mean, they were talking about a manhole explosion down in. Let's check out one more story because that was just informative. Let's check out a real story about a manhole explosion, and this happened. This happened 3 years ago, but it's still to the point. Let's check it out.
Out of that scary scene in Times Square last night, a loud explosion went off, sparking fears of an attack that sent people running. You see it right there. Firefighters and police swarmed the area. And the energy company now says a manhole explosion is to blame. Janae Norman has the story. Good morning, Janae.
George, good morning. Despite knowing it was a manhole explosion, we were talking earlier about how scary this had to be. It was a pretty nice day out, lots of people out. And of course, Times Square on a weekend is packed with people, and then panic. A loud bang sending crowds scrambling, unsure of what exactly they were running from. But this live stream video from EarthCam shows a bird eye view of the moment where you see right there hundreds of terrified people, including many with children, not sticking around to find out what happened after that massive bang and then smoke. Turns out this was a manhole explosion. CODN confirming it happened just before 7 yesterday evening, just a block from our studios over on 43rd Street, telling ABC News in a statement a manhole exploded due to a cable failure and a second manhole was smoking. Firefighters also found elevated carbon monoxide levels in buildings nearby. Thankfully, no reports of injuries or property damage. But despite that, for the people who were here visiting Times Square, this had to be absolutely terrifying. And George, as you told me, not just for the people out here in the streets, but even some in buildings nearby. Guys.
Yeah, thank you, Janae. Allie was actually at a show last night. Wow. At the end of the show, they heard the explosion go off. The entire theater was in panic. They swarmed to the lobbies, people pinned against the walls. They also thought there was a shooter outside at the same time. So it's a real sign of the times. It was just a manhole explosion, but it created such panic throughout
and
Times
understandably
Square.
so with that kind of noise. All right.
Hi, everyone.
That's
George
what I'm talking
Stephanopoulos here.
about.
Thanks for checking out the...
Yeah, it said it's a sign of the times, and I guess at times this is about fear. I mean, only time that we really thought these manhole explosions really happened was in the movies. The crazy stuff, the avalanches of the world, and all those kinds of crazy things. But it's a true thing, so it's just another thing that you have to be mindful of. I guess it's not something that you'd really try to spend time thinking about or avoiding to any degree because you just never know when it's going to happen. But let's face it, it's something that could happen, so be safe. All right, last but not least, we're going to talk about Trump and California, specifically Gavin Newsom, as they gear up to fight Trump as Trump starts to turn the tables on their new EV, or not new, but the EV rules that they the EV rules that they put in during Biden that stated that by 2035 they want the majority of the vehicles on the roads to be EV vehicles. Now, I've said many a moon that is a far stretch and it's going to be extremely hard to do, but no one will listen to me. But I guess the Trump administration thinks the same way.
Now to the fight over EV vehicles and emission regulations in California. Under federal law, the state has the authority to set its own vehicle emission standards.
Now, the Senate is moving to overturn that. ABC 7 News political reporter Monica Madden is here with the story. Monica.
The measure now heads to President Donald Trump's desk, and he is expected to sign it. But Governor Gavin Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta say they're gearing up for a legal fight over California's ability to regulate its air quality. It's another Trump-California showdown.
The federal government's overreach is illogical. It's politically motivated.
California leaders say they're ready to sue the federal government after Congress voted to block California's law phasing out the sale of gas-powered vehicles.
They didn't care. They want to pollute more.
Governor.
How can you... all right. Sorry, I had to jump right in there. How would you be able to phase out the sale of gas-powered vehicles? Didn't that seem impossible? I mean, specifically because we continue to manufacture gas-powered vehicles. Or is California going to be the only place in the world that doesn't have gas-powered vehicles? That would be asinine. The whole thought process is crazy. I understand wanting to have clean air and all that fancy stuff, but why is California is just crazy. Let's keep going.
Gavin Newsom says if successful, Republicans' move will slow down progress in American EV production.
California created the rules that now have been attacked that help create and support the development of an iconic American company by the name of Tesla. China is celebrating this.
So, is this we to any degree think this act by the Trump administration is an attack on Tesla and Elon Musk because of what he's been doing lately? Let's keep going.
Was a day that marks a moment of acceleration in their capacity to dominate in the next big global industry.
It's a victory for all Californians to defend the basic right to be able to drive a car of your choice.
California Republicans say the state is not ready for an electric future.
We already are paying by far the highest cost of gas in the country, close to the highest cost of electricity and water, and so many other things. It's a big part of what's making life in our state so difficult for so many people. And it's the bad policies that are causing the price of gas and the price of a lot of other things to be so expensive. So it's time to start rolling those back, and getting rid of this ban was a really good start.
I asked U.S. Senator Adam Schiff Thursday about the debate in Washington.
Based on your conversations behind closed doors with Republicans, do you think they are being genuine when they say publicly that this is about ensuring consumers have more choices?
They say they're for states' rights in one breath. On the other hand, they want to say, no, California, you don't get to decide how clean or dirty your air is. We'll decide that for you. That's just a giveaway to the oil industry. But the other thing that they're being very disingenuous about is this requires 60 votes, and they don't have 60 votes. They've, what is called here, gone nuclear, which they promised they wouldn't do as recently as just a few weeks ago.
Once this lawsuit is filed, a key argument will be about this tool called the Congressional Review Act, which allows lawmakers to overturn rules issued by federal agencies, like the EPA waiver that California received. The Senate's arbiter of rules found Congress could not use that Congressional Review Act in this case, but of course the Senate went ahead anyway. Live in the studio, Monica Madden, ABC 7 News.
So, I want to read the of course, Automotive News article. You know how we love Automotive News. I'm going to read the Automotive News article, and it talks a little bit more in depth in this story, and it kind of touches on how this affects Tesla, because I believe to some degree this is going to really be about Tesla, and I think to some degree it's always been about Tesla. So let's check this out. Of course, Automotive News. U.S. declares Biden fuel economy rules exceeded legal authority. Senate Republicans move to cut emissions fines. This is by Reuters News. This is June 6. The Transportation Department on June 6 declared the fuel economy rules issued under then President Joe Biden exceeded the government's legal authority by including electric vehicles and setting the rules, automaker officials said. The department made the declaration as it published a final resetting the corporate average fuel economy program, or CAF, rule. A future separate rule from the administration of President Donald Trump will revise the fuel economy requirements. We're making vehicles more affordable and easier to manufacture in the United States. The previous administration illegally used CAF standards as an electric vehicle mandate, said Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy in a statement. The department's NHTSA, in writing its rule last year under Biden, had assumed significant numbers of EVs would continue to be produced, regardless of the standards set by the agency, in turn increasing the level of standards that could be considered maximum feasible, it said Friday. Duffy in January signed an order directing NHTSA to rescind fuel economy standards issued under Biden for the 2022-2031 model years that are aimed to drastically reduce fuel use for cars and trucks. In a related development, Senate Republicans on June 5th proposed eliminating fines for automakers who failed to meet CAF rules as part of the wide-ranging tax bill, a boost to Detroit automakers selling gasoline-powered vehicles. Okay. Last year, Chrysler parent Stellantis paid $190.7 million in civil penalties for failing to meet U.S. fuel economy requirements for 2019 and 20, after paying nearly $400 million for penalties from 2016 through 2019. General Motors previously paid $128.2 million in penalties for 2016 and 2017. That's a lot of money. Stellantis said it supported the Senate Republican proposal to provide relief while Dotted develops its proposal to reset the CAF standards. The standards are out of sync with the current market reality, and immediate relief is necessary to preserve affordability and freedom of choice. What Kevin Kiley said. GM declined to comment. Thursday's proposal also makes emission credits, guys, sold by Tesla Inc. less valuable as rivals won't have to pay Tesla to meet requirements. So, other automakers were having to pay Tesla to meet certain requirements. The lawmakers estimated would save automakers $200 million. Tesla was raking in $200 million from other automakers to buy emissions credits. Let's understand something. What emissions credits? I mean, so are we worried about the quality of the air? Because if we were worried about the quality of the air, how could Tesla sell emissions credits to other companies so that these credits would allow them to meet emission standards? Doesn't that mean that they're not meeting emission standards and they're just getting credits from Tesla saying that they're meeting emission standards? If that's the case, do we really care about the quality of the air? Let's keep going. U.S. House Republicans are pursuing similar aims but with a different approach. Last month, they proposed repealing planned hikes in fuel economy requirements as well as vehicle emission rules adopted under the Biden administration. See, that's what I'm saying. They're creating all of these barriers to try to force people who drive gas-powered vehicles to purchase EV vehicles. And you just can't do it in this market. People are poor. People are getting cost. Everything is up in cost. Gas, food, everything is up in cost. Housing. And what you're going to try to do is, we're going to make it more expensive for you to drive your car, which you need to get back and forth to work, take your kids to school, all these other things. We're going to make it more expensive for you to use your gas-powered vehicle to force you to create a debt for yourself by purchasing an EV vehicle. That's asinine. That's crazy, and that's retarded, and that's not what should be being done. Sorry, I'm sorry I said that. Let's keep going. The House bill would also kill a $70,500 tax credit for new electric vehicles, impose a new $250 annual fee on EVs for road repair costs. Okay. And would phase out EV battery production tax credits in 2028. The two chambers have also voted to bar California's landmark plan to end the sale of gasoline-only vehicles by 2035, which has been adopted by 11 other states, representing a third of U.S. automakers, representing a third of the U.S. auto market. That bill is currently awaiting President Donald Trump's signature. Last year's NHTSA said it would hike fuel economy rules to an average of 50.4 miles per gallon by 2031, up from 39.1 miles per gallon for light-duty vehicles. It warned the auto industry collectively was expected to face a total of $1.83 billion in fines through 2031. Okay. Now, what does that all say? That tries to break down the fight between the idea in California that for us to have clean air, we have to get rid of all gas-powered vehicles, specifically by 2035. California does not have the infrastructure to do such a thing, and they will not have the infrastructure to do such a thing by 2035. You would literally have to turn every gas station into an EV charging station. You would have to create EV charging systems that could charge a lot faster than the ones that we are capable of doing right now. Now, those are in development. They're coming out shortly. They will be arriving, but they're not here now. And they won't be here the next... They'll be here. Scratch that. I believe in technology. I believe that they will be here soon. Very soon. But California, you don't have the infrastructure. And you don't have the right to tell people what they can drive. in 10 years. You can't force people to buy EV vehicles. And that's exactly what this is. People have to have the right of choice to drive what they want to drive. And that's what you're trying to do. Now, I understand clean air, and I truly believe, and I had this fight when I first moved out here from Indiana. I talked to a smog inspector, and I was like, this smog thing is just a grift. It's just a way for the state of California to get money out of people. It wasn't helping the air quality at all. No other states is doing this, where some states, but most other states are not doing this. And after living in California for quite some time, I realized that the air in California does seem cleaner, does seem better. I'll admit that. I travel a lot. I go to other places, and the air seems worse where there's places that don't have smog certifications. But I still stick to it. It's not to the point where I wouldn't move or live in these other places because of that. And I understand the desire to have clean air. But the desire to take away a person's choice to drive what they want to drive, so you can because for me, it really looks like this is more powered by a desire to help EV sales than it is to help the people. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, we know that a lot of people can't afford EV vehicles. EV vehicles are not affordable for everybody. You can say there's a lot of Teslas on the road. They try to make these Teslas cheap, and they have people in Teslas, but a lot of people live in apartments. A lot of people don't have their own homes. And if you don't have your own home, I said it's a lot. If you don't have your own home, it's hard to own an EV vehicle, because you're going to be one of those people that has to sit at that EV charging station for 35, 40 minutes. Who has that time these days? Nobody. Nobody has that time to be sitting around charging my EV vehicle, not at my house, not being able to get work done, having to sit in the car, hopefully be able to try to get some work done while I'm waiting for it to charge. We're not ready for that. We're not ready to get rid of all our gas-powered vehicles. There's a lot of people that are deciding that with the economy the way it is, the way the world is, they're just going to run with the cars they have till the wheels fall off. And I'm with that. Everything helps me when it comes to automotive. Hey, if you need to get your car fixed, I'm with it. You need to buy a new car, I'm with it. You need to buy EV, I'm with it. But let's not, please let us not take away a person's choice. Because that's what we're talking about. So I am personally in agreement with the Trump administration when it comes to this. I've been railing about this idea that we're going to have only EV vehicles on the road by 2035 for an extremely long time. I think it's crazy. I don't think it's possible. I don't think we have the infrastructure. I don't think we have the mentality of the people, the majority of the people, that it would work. So I think they should squash it all. They think they should continue to sell as many EVs as they need, continue to keep smog certification up there, and we'll still have a clean air here in California. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Car Concierge Show. I'm your host, Chris Surratt. Please hit the like, share, subscribe button. Hit me in the DMs if you have any questions. And I'm out. Enjoy your Sunday. Peace.